Welcome to my pre-algebra class. We're on Chapter 9, Section 9. We're going to be working with word problems that involve a percent of increase or decrease. And we're basically doing the same equation method. If we're trying to find a percent of increase or decrease, we're missing the percent. So it's going to be X percent of the original amount will equal the change. So if it's a percent of decrease, it's a discount. And if it's a percent of increase, it's a markup. So the first example, a dress that was $100 is now $80. What was the rate of discount? So it's going to be X percent of the original amount. The original amount was 100 equals the change, the discount or the markup. In this case, it was a discount. So I take 100 minus 80, it dropped to 80, so the discount was 20, equals 20. Divide both sides by 100. So I get X percent. If you simplify that, it's 1/5, and you remember the decimal for 1/5 is 0.2. So the percent of discount is 2 to the right, 20%. The second example is a markup. What is the rate of markup, or what is the percent of markup on a car that was $24,000 and is now being sold for $30,000? So the original amount is the whole amount, so that was $24,000, so times 24,000. And it's now being sold for $30,000, so the markup, subtract 24,000 from 30,000, and we have a markup of $6,000. So the part is 6,000. Dividing both sides by 24,000. And dropping matching zeros, we get X percent equals, that's 1/4, which is 0.25. So our percent is a 25% markup, moving it 2 to the right. That concludes the explanation. Find your worksheet 119. And we're doing the evens. Head your paper, skip a line, fold it in half. Problem number 2. It says the original price was $75, the new price is $90. So X percent of the original price, 75. We're looking for the percent of increase. It went from 75 to 90, so if we subtract 75 from 90, that's an increase of 15. So we want to know 15 is what percent of 75. Divide both sides by 75, and we get X percent equals, we'll move our calculator back in again, or if you recognize that 15 goes into 15 once and in 75/5 we get 1/5, which is going to be 0.25. So we'll just use the calculator also, and we get, 0.2. 1/5 is 0.2. So the percent of discount is 20%, moving the decimal over 2 to the right. Problem number 4. The original depth was 8 feet. The new depth is 12 feet. We want to know what the percent of increase is. So we have X percent of the original depth, which was 8, equals the increase. What percent is the increase? So 12 take away 8, we have a 4-foot increase, equals 4. Divide both sides by 8, and we get X percent equals 1/2. So X percent equals 0.5, so the percent of increase is 50%. Problem number 6. The original width is 15, the new width is 20. So we want to find the percent of increase. X percent of 15 equals the increase. 20 minus 15 is 5. So we divide both sides by 15, and if we take 5 and divide it by 15, I'm sure you recognize that as 1/3. We'll do one of these with the calculator. So x% equals 0.3 repeating. And we move it 2 to the right, we get 33, and we are not going to put 0.3 repeating in a percent. We always change repeating parts into a fraction. So it's 33 1/3%. Mainly because we can't work with a repeating decimal. Number 8, the original cost is $64. The new cost is 80. We want the percent of increase. So the original cost, if x% of 64 equals, and the new cost was 80, so 80 take away 64 is 16. So there was an increase of 16. Divide both sides by 64. And that should be 0.25. 16 divided by 64. That's 1/4, which is 0.25. So x% equals 0.25. So our percent's 25% increase. Okay, the next set of problems are decrease. Problem number 10. X% of the original score, which was 125, and the new score is 75, so 125 take away 75, that's 50. So we have a decrease to 50 of 50. So divide 125 on both sides. So 50 divided by 125 equals 0.4. So the percent is 40% decrease. Number 12, the original salary is $500. New salary is $450. So 500 take away 450, we have a decrease of $50. Divide both sides by 500, and we should get 0.1. Because that's 1/10. So x% equals 0.1. So the percent of decrease is 10%. Problem number 14. The original distance was 400 kilometers. So x% of 400, and our decrease is, it's going to go down to 320, so that's a decrease of 80. So divide both sides by 400. And we're going to get 1/5 again, which is 0.2. So our percent of decrease is 20%. Problem 16, original length is 48. And the new length is 42, so that's a decrease of 6. We want to know what percent of 48.6 is. Divide both sides by 48. And that's going to give us, that's going to be 1/8, which is 0.125. So our percent is 12.5 or 12.5%. Problem number 18. We got blank percent of the original amount equals the increase or decrease. So in June, Gary's appliance store sold 60 telephones. In July, the store sold 72. Find the percent of increase. So we're looking for the percent. In July, they sold 60, and in June they sold 60. In July, they sold 72. So that's an increase of 12. divide both sides by 60, and we get x percent equals 0.2. So that's a 20%, slide it over 2 to the right, decrease, or increase rather. And the last one, number 20, blank percent of the whole equals, or the original amount equals the increase or decrease. So it says the Gonzalez family increased the size of their family room from 180 square feet to 240 square feet. So the original footage was 180, and it went to 240, so that's an increase of 60. So divide by 180, and we get 6 divided by 18, which is going to come out 1/3 or 0.3 repeating. So we have x percent equals 0.3 repeating. So x equals 33, and 3 repeating is 1/3%. That concludes the evens. Be sure to check the worksheet for the answers to the odds.